Okay, hey guys, another week, another video. Today, I have a pretty information heavy video. So the title of the video is Why You Are Missing Out on Damage. And it's a little bit clickbaity. Really what it should say is why I miss out on damage playing Arcana. But I think that people who are playing this class, especially if you're new to it, we will all be experiencing these issues. So I want to talk a little bit about what makes Arcana challenging and my observations for the difficulties that I've had playing the class and trying to get through some of the end game content right now. Hopefully, through this video, we will better understand what are the things that Arcana players need to watch out for, what are some potential solutions to those things, and how we can make that experience smoother to make sure that we're outputting as much damage as possible, okay? So, hopefully you guys can read that, and if not, I'll have maybe I can put it in the description, or maybe it'll be better in the comments. We'll see. But this notepad here is just some stuff that I wanted to note. Now, the first topic here, where it says gear, I've created a lot of videos about this, so I don't want to go too in depth, but the truth of it is that your Arcana won't be doing damage until you are getting your gems squared away, getting your tripod squared away, getting your engraving squared away, and getting your relic set squared away. And yes, that does mean I do feel that Arcana does not really that great damage until you get your relic set complete, okay? But that's not the focus of this video. I want to put that to the side a little bit because I want to talk about the rest of the stuff. What actually happens when you're playing the game, okay? The last note that I want to note here is cooldowns are very, very important for Arcana, okay? Cooldown is everything. Less cooldowns means you have more stack skills available, means that your ruin skills come back up, means you draw more cards, means that more of your skill and your rotation can fit into your return buff window, either more leniency or more skills. Cooldown is very good for Arcana, okay? So your gear really helps with that. You really need to make sure that you're gearing your Arcana up if you want to see performance, at least for Empress, okay? Concept number one is that you always want to use 2 ruin skills in your 1 return buff window, okay? And that return buff is your 5-second crit damage window here. So if you see on the game screen right now, you can see that return has that exposed darkness tripod, and that tripod says on hit outgoing crit damage plus 50% for 5 seconds. And if you level up that tripod, it goes up to 77%. And I do recommend you level up that tripod. But this buff window is kind of like the core of all the damage that we will be trying to output with Arcana. Okay? So, some notes about that. We always want to use return, ideally, when it's off cooldown. When we do use return, we want to make sure that we can use 2 rune skills in there. So already that first point is adjusted a little bit. If you need to wait a little bit, like a second or 2 to make sure that you get 2 rune skills inside your return buff window, we're going to want to do that, okay? Now, the third point, serendipity is a really bad skill if it doesn't crit, okay? And even though you do get a little bit of crit chance on serendipity when you use return because you get your 10% crit synergy, it's almost never worth it to use serendipity inside your return window, because if it doesn't crit, you're not getting the damage buff from the return buff window, and you're not using Celestial Rain or Secret Garden, which have crit tripods built into them, right? For Secret Garden, it's 40% increased crit, and for Celestial Rain, it's 45%. So unless you have cull or judgement or both, you almost never want to use serendipity in your return buff window. So it's basically it comes down to using Secret Garden and Celestial Rain your return buff window, okay? As long as we understand that, that's one of the issues that you will run into during your boss fights, is organizing your return buff so that you get Garden, Secret Garden, and Celestial Rain, okay? The point number 2. Empress Arcana is a melee class. Okay, this is the truth. Empress Arcana is a melee class in some ways, so I play a lot of Deathblade as well. Many times, I feel like Deathblade is more of a range class than Empress Arcana is. And it's important to really understand what this means, right? It's not only that Secret Garden and Serendipity are melee skills, but your stack skills are also melee skills. And if you don't build stacks, you don't do any damage as Empress Arcana. Okay, the contribution of your skills that aren't your rune skills popping 4 stacks is so low that you absolutely need to be stacking up. You basically never want to miss your stack skills, and you always want to be rotating them. The problem is you only have 3 stack skills, and 2 of 3 of your stack skills are melee ranged. So Scratch Dealer and Spiral Edge, unfortunately, require you to basically be next to the boss to do. So if the boss is doing any kind of melee hate, you're kind of out of luck, right? You basically can only rely on Quadra Accelerate, and then your 2 range skills for damage is going to be Return and Rain. So within that window of time, if you use your Celestial Rain and the boss is doing melee hate, you're not going to be building stacks, and you can't use Secret Garden, okay? Neither can you use Serendipity, so this can be a big issue for Empress Arcana. The next point, if you miss stacks, so we kind of talked about this in the other one, you basically can't use 2 rune skills in your return buff, right? Because you only have 3 stacking skills, only Spiral Edge on its own can give you 4 stacks. If you only have Scratch Dealer and Quadra Accelerate, right, each of these only give you 2 stacks. So if you miss Scratch Dealer, you're probably going to end up at 3 stacks or something like that with Quadra Accelerate, 2 or 3 stacks. And to give you some frame of reference, on my character, if I use Secret Garden at 3 stacks, it crits for 1.8 million damage. If I use Secret Garden at 4 stacks, it crits for 8 million damage. Okay, so you really do not want to be using your ruin skills at anything less than 4 stacks. That's very, very important, okay? So you don't want to miss stacks, and you can see how this can be a problem when there are melee hate bosses, right? Because if all of a sudden you can't build that last stack, or you go to do your Spiral Edge and you get knocked out of it and you can't get up and use your second Spiral Edge, or the same thing for Scratch Dealer, then all of a sudden you're stuck in a situation where, well, now you can't complete your 4 stacks for a while, right? This is a big thing that will hurt Arcana players when they're doing boss fights. If the boss does something, if they make a mistake, if they get interrupted, you can fall very far behind. The 4th point is, I think, really, really important. Empress Arcana damage is very backloaded. If you've played Gunslingers, if you play the Gunslinger class, you'll kind of know what this experience is like a little bit, because a lot of Gunslingers class, the majority of their damage comes at the tail end of their animation. But for Arcana, a lot of our damage only happens when we pop our ruin skill stacks, right? However, typically, when we have an opening, there's a few steps that we have to get through first. 1, we have to build stacks. 2, we have to use our return buff. And then 3, that 3rd point is when we actually get our damage, when we use our ruin skills. So as an example, if the boss comes down and there's only a short window, imagine that we take that first portion of time building up our stacks. We have our stacks built up. We take the second portion of time, we use return, and then as we're about to use our ruin skill, the boss leaves. Okay? If you guys have done Gate 2 Vicus, this is going to happen a lot and a lot and a lot. And the problem is, if the boss leaves before you use your ruin skill, you basically did no damage in that window. Okay? Now, imagine you're something like a Remaining Energy Deathblade. Sure, it kind of sucks when Vicus jumps away, but if, let's say, Vicus lands and then you use Blitz Rush and then Moonlight Sonic and maybe half of the Moonlight Sonic hits, well, at least you got your Blitz Rush damage and a portion of your Moonlight Sonic damage, right? The comparison for Arcana is maybe you got your Scratch Dealer and your Quadra Accelerate off, maybe you got your Return off, but let me just give you some frame of reference for how much damage that actually does. Okay, I'm going to start the test here. Scratch Dealer, Quadra Accelerate, Ruin. I did a whopping 971,000 damage. If I just added Secret Garden on top of that, that would have added another 4. That didn't even crit. If it crits, it was like 8 million. But that added 4 million damage on top of that, right? So 900,000 is nothing. You lose an incredible amount of damage because all your damage is backloaded. Some solutions to this, you can maybe cut out your return buff if you know the window is short and just go straight to your stack skill. Or not your stack skill, to your ruin skill. If you think the window is really short, maybe you just do Scratch Dealer, Quadra Accelerate, and then you go instantly into Secret Garden. Maybe. But Empress Arcana damage is backloaded. The fifth point, you need to spam Call of Destiny. But the problem with Call of Destiny is that it doesn't actually push any of your core rotation forward. Call of Destiny is not a stacking skill, it's not a ruin skill, but you absolutely need to use it because it is your best way to draw cards currently. And so you need to find time to make sure you use Call of Destiny. A lot of people get caught up in just doing their stacking and then doing their ruin skills, and they don't use Call of Destiny as much as they can. And that ends up putting them behind because they don't have the cards to help them with their rotations. They're just not drawing enough, okay? So these 5 points are absolutely the biggest barriers that an Arcana player will experience as they're doing boss fights that will prevent them from doing damage, okay? Let's talk about some solutions. Let's talk about this first point here. Secret Garden is your friend. Now, Secret Garden has issues, mainly that it's melee, but it's actually really good for a lot of other things. It solves problem number 1, which if you go back and look at it, it's 2 ruin skills and 1 return buff. It gives you some tools because Secret Garden is a great way to delay your ruin skill timing because its cooldown is really, really short. So my Secret Garden, if you look on the game screen here, if I use Secret Garden, without anything else, I don't have Moon, I'm not in Boundless MP, right, for my Nightmare set. If I just use Secret Garden, it's 7 seconds on cooldown, okay? The return buff window is 5 seconds long. So even if I dump my stacks with Secret Garden, I get it back really quick. So then when the return buff window comes, I can maybe do Rain and then do Secret Garden again, okay? It's very, very important to make sure that you utilize Secret Garden to adjust your timing on your return buff windows. Secret Garden solves a portion of number 3 as well, because if you miss your stacks, that means you're basically going to miss one ruin skill. But the nice thing is you can kind of realign your cooldowns by using Secret Garden and eating 4 stacks and then kind of starting fresh again and then going from there. So you can use Secret Garden, eat up your stacks, build up another 4 stacks, and then use Return and Rain. And then by the time your stacking skills come back off cooldown, you can use Secret Garden again. And then this helps alleviate the experience that Arcana damage is backloaded because, as I mentioned, the Secret Garden cooldown is low enough that if you know the boss is jumping, even if you don't use a return buff, you can just hit Secret Garden real quick, the boss jumps away. By the time the boss comes back, your Secret Garden is ready to go again, so you basically didn't lose that much, right? So using Secret Garden a lot is the best thing that you can do to improve your damage. Make sure you're keeping Secret Garden on cooldown, using it very frequently, using it very liberally, okay? It's the best way to dump the stacks in a practical situation if you need to. Now, 2 things that I want to talk about for Secret Garden that will help you think about your rotation. When should you just use Secret Garden on its own? Well, there are 2 good rules of thumb to get you started, okay? The first one is if your return buff is 2 seconds or longer on cooldown, you can use your Secret Garden, okay? And I'm going to show you why in game. So I'm going to use return, and it goes on cooldown, right? If my return is at 2 seconds, look at how this timing works out. So 4, 3, 2, I use Secret Garden, stack, stack, and then I can use return here, Celestial Rain, and then by the time I stack up again, I use another Secret Garden, and you can see the weakness detection buff is still on, okay? I'm gonna do that one more time so you guys can see that. So watch how this timing works out, okay? So we're waiting, and then when return gets to 2 seconds, or longer, I still will make it in time. I stack, stack, return, rain, and then I do my stacking skills, and the buff is still up, and I can Secret Garden, okay? This is why, if your Secret Garden is up, and return is at least 2 seconds or more on cooldown, you can still use your Secret Garden alone, and you won't lose out on your opportunity to get 2 ruin skills inside your return buff window. So just remember that timing. Okay, so for the second one, if your return is ready, but your Celestial Rain is not ready, you can actually use Secret Garden alone if your Celestial Rain is 3 seconds or longer on cooldown. Okay, so I'm going to show you that now. So let's say I use Celestial Rain, right? Celestial Rain is used, and I'm waiting. Let's say this is how my cooldowns are shaping up. When it hits like 4 seconds, 3 seconds, I use my Secret Garden. I stack up again. I can actually go straight into my Return Rain combo, and then my Secret Garden is still available while my weakness detection buff is still up. So this will help you make decisions on how to use your Secret Garden optimally. You don't have to do any complicated math to figure this out. It's just Secret Garden's cooldown is low enough, and that 5-second buff window is long enough that you have some flexibility for how you can dump your stacks and how you can keep things on cooldown, okay? Okay, moving on. If you miss your stacks, you're going to lose out on 1 ruin skill. If that happens, you should probably sacrifice your serendipity outside of the return buff window. And then the only caveat to that is if you have cull or judgement, then serendipity becomes worthwhile to use. So it is recommended that if you run into a situation where you miss a stack, right? So for example, let's say I do this and I'm here. It's much more recommended that I just wait. I don't use my serendipity. And I just make sure that I can hit my Return Rain Secret Garden combo, okay? Let me show you that again. Right, I only have 2 stacks. I'm not going to use Spiral Edge and Serendipity. Instead, I'm just going to skip the Serendipity and then wait for the next rotation and then hit my Rain and Secret Garden when I can. Okay, this is the best way to realign your cooldowns, lose the least, and I think that will be the most effective for you. About number 2 and number 4, which those are Empress Arcana being melee and your damage being backloaded. Unfortunately, based on the boss fight, that's just going to happen to you. Okay, you're just going to be losing downtime. It's just a reality of the situation. Okay, if you smell melee hate coming, you want to make sure you use your melee skills first while you can, so that when the melee hate is happening, you can use your range skills, right? So this would be Return, Celestial Rain, and Quadra Accelerate. These will kind of alleviate the issues that you may have a little bit if there's melee hate. However, if there's a lot of it, not much you can do, right? There's a little bit of fight knowledge that can help you here, but sometimes you're just going to get screwed by that. That's just going to happen. And then the last thing that I want to mention is, based on some cards that you will draw, it can alleviate some of these problems. If you have balance, then all of a sudden your Scratch Dealer and Quadra Accelerate on their own can give you 4 stacks, which will really help you. If you have Medusa, you can make up for missed stack skills by just auto-attacking, which can be very, very helpful as well. And then Star and Moon with their cooldown reductions can make things more lenient, right? If you use a skill out of turn or out of order, maybe your Moon card has given you enough cooldown reduction that you can make it up, or your Star card just refreshes it fast enough that you can just catch the next window easier. So those are the most obvious solutions, aside from kind of like readjusting how you play in a fight. But hopefully those are helpful. Now, one of the things that I want to mention before I move on is that the update coming in Korea has a lot of conveniences packed into it that I think I haven't really seen talked about. And obviously I'll have to play it to know for sure. But based on what I'm experiencing now for the Arcana class and how these changes will end up playing out in my head, I actually think that there are a lot of solutions, okay? Basically everything from 1 through 4, and really even for 5, right? All the problems listed, there are changes that address all of them, okay? So if you've been following any of the changes, Call of Destiny is changing roles quite a bit. 1, we're not going to be using the Quick Draw tripod on it, which, if anybody needs a reminder, the Quick Draw tripod is the tripod that gives us a chance on hit to draw a specialty card. That thing is getting nerfed, so we're no longer going to be going for that strategy for card draw anymore. Instead, we're going to change our Call of Destiny to a range skill that gives us 3 stacks. Okay, there's going to be a new tripod that's added in that will allow Call of Destiny to become a stacking skill. Now, I'm pretty sure it gives us 3 stacks in 1 hit, but I need to re-verify that. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, with balance, you can just use Call of Destiny once and it'll give you a max 4 stacks, I think, but I'll need to double check that. However, regardless of that case, what this means now is we run 4 stack skills instead of 3 now, which already that gives us a lot of flexibility, right? Missing 1 stack skill is not nearly as punishing anymore because we still have 3 more that we can use that give us a good amount of stacks. And Call of Destiny is a range skill. So now it's not just Quadra Accelerator that we rely on. We can use Call of Destiny to get stacks from range. So if you're still running Quadra, or if you're running the new skill Backflush, which is also ranged, you actually have a potential from at range completely. If you have no stacks on the boss and it's doing melee hate and you can't get close, you can use Call of Destiny, you can use Quadra Accelerate, you can use Return, you can use Rain. And this makes more than a full rotation of skills that you can do from range that gives you max damage. This is going to be super helpful. It really helps alleviate that feeling of Arcana being very melee locked, okay? This point number 5, where I said you need to spam Call of Destiny, the Empress Arcana rotation after the Korean changes is going to become much more focused. We don't have the skill that's kind of outside of our core rotation that we need to manage anymore, because a lot of the card draw is being pushed towards the specialty meter gain, and that's being buffed for red skills, rune skills, popping 4 stacks. We're going to get much more specialty meter. We're going to be using wealth runes, and so we're going to be drawing a lot more cards through that method than previously. And because Call of Destiny now is a stacking skill, that's just part of our core rotation. So we just draw cards naturally doing the things that we want to do to output damage, right? We're not reliant on the quick draw tripod. This means that all of our cooldown and stacking skills will just naturally draw us cards, which alleviates that issue. And then, because we're swapping out serendipity, or most people will be swapping out serendipity for four of a kind, this actually gives us 2 ranged rune skill options, okay? So I just want to show you really quickly on the game screen what this means. So if I slot in 4 of a kind, I'm not going to put any tripods down. If you see 4 of a kind, it comes out at a range, right? So I can actually back off the boss, right? I can stand like right here, and you see that 4 of a kind hits them. Now the range isn't long, but it's long enough that we can kind of deal with it, right? So if I put serendipity on, you'll notice that serendipity has problems hitting at this range, right? But 4 of a kind just gives us that little bit of extra range that we can actually operate from this distance. So for example, remember, if we had Call of Destiny as a range stacking skill, so imagine we're in a situation like this, we can actually use Return, Rain, Quadra Accelerate, and then the new Call of Destiny or whatever, build up our 4 stacks, and then from this range, we can use 4 of a kind, which gives us a full 2 rune skill combo that we can do at range. We don't have to be close to the boss, we don't have to interact with melee hate, we don't have to do any of that, which means our uptime will be greatly improved, which will be very helpful for Arcana. There will be many more situations where we can reorder our rotation if we foresee melee hate coming, so that we can still have uptime while we're staying away from the boss. This allows us to adjust to fight circumstances much easier, so that's great. And then the last thing that's happening that's really good is because we're not running quick draw on Call of Destiny anymore, we're going to be using a tripod called Dark Destiny, and that gives us the same buff as Return. Okay, it's going to give us crit damage. It's going to give us crit damage for 3 seconds. Return gives us crit damage for 5 seconds. And then Call of Destiny gives us crit damage for 3 seconds. What this means is that we don't have to get 2 rune skills in the Return buff window, because ideally we would have that crit damage buff happening all the time, okay? So we'll cycle Return, and then when that's running out, we'll use Call of Destiny. And then when we're ready to use rune skills again, we'll have Return up again, and we'll just go back and forth between the two. So it's much less punishing if we use Return, we use Rain, the boss jumps away, and we can't use Secret Garden. That's okay, because the boss lands again, then we use something like Quadra Accelerate, Call of Destiny, and then we can use Secret Garden, and we still get that crit damage, okay? So in actuality, there's a ton of really good changes coming for Arcana in the patch. And hopefully that'll help everybody kind of like focus in and hone in on the Arcana rotation and not run into a lot of these, what I believe to be very, very, very real issues that might be holding you back from dealing damage. I just wanted to make this kind of like summarized points. I know it's kind of a wall of text, but you can peruse it on your own accord. I'm going to see if I can put this wall of text in either the description of the video or in the comments so you can go back and read through. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know. But weekly, of course, you know what it is. We have to do Kundalanium. We have to do Kundalanium because we just want to get better at playing Arcana. So as we're doing this Kundalanium, I want you guys to think about some of the issues that we talked about the stacking skills, about the melee nature of the class, and just notice how many times we run into some of those barriers, and potentially how we can come up with solutions for those scenarios. Obviously, fight situations can be very different. For Kundalanium, at the start, we're focused on drawing really good cards, and we're focused on destruction damage at first. We're even going to... Oh, he's gonna freeze me. We're even going to hold off on using our awakening skill for when the shield breaks. Nice, we got some judgments. So he's gonna jump. This is melee hate, right? So I have to back away a little bit. Luckily, it's only for a short while. Pops that. For a short while, so luckily it wasn't that bad. Gonna use rain, draw cards, right? Try to keep that Call of Destiny on cooldown. We can use Secret Garden because return is on 2 seconds. Then now we just want to continuously use our Call of Destiny. You still get the quick draw tripod proc even when the boss is invincible. You see how I drew a card there? Now we don't really want balance, so we're gonna use this and continuously try to draw a card. 3-headed. We maybe go for one more card draw here. One more time, and then we're bursting with whatever we have. Melee hate there. Make sure we get Saren. It was too late because I popped it early. It was really bad on my part. But now we have Medusa, so we're a little bit... We have some leniency here with our card draw. 4. Jump this way. I'm gonna use this, draw a card, damage, proc balance. Get enough attack speed to get 3 ruin skills in that window. So for star, we want to save it for rain. Rain, star. The Secret Garden again. Cooldowns are really good. Serendipity while he jumps. Try to not get frozen here. Do this. We need to use Call of Destiny. We haven't used it in a while, so there it is. Okay, no melee hate on this side. Use star again. I want to draw at least one more time before I freeze myself. We got star again. So in this case, I'm going to be dropping all my star cards. I just want to draw some damage cards right now. We got Wheel of Fortune, which is okay. It's okay for refreshing rain. If we get Judgment, then we can refresh Serendipity maybe. Maybe luck out on some crits. Erosion. Okay, so we got Wheel of Fortune Cold. Might do this on rain. Okay, especially if that happens. So I need to be careful. I need to wait for my stacking skills. And now I need to go. Okay, he's going to jump back, so we need to make sure we don't get... Nice, just in time. That was kind of a dangerous situation. Okay, so we have Judgment here, which is really good. Let's try to draw one more card before we decide to go. Careful for melee hate. Okay, so he's jumping. I'm going to try to get to this side. There's 1 freeze. 2. Try to draw a card. If he's going to jump, there it is. Now we go. Nice, we got one of the crits, so that's good. We're going to Secret Garden here just on its own. Reorganize the timing. I die. Okay, this situation, you see how we missed the stack skill? We're just going to give up. 1 serendipity for that. Just delay. Wait for our stack skills to come off cooldown. Miss stack skills again. Gonna jump again and he's gonna jump here. There it is. Jump away. Draw a card. Spiral edge away because our teammate might freeze us here. Serendipity since everything is on cooldown. That's how we do it. So you notice that was quite a rocky, no pun intended, quite a rocky fight of Kundalanium. You'll run into these issues a lot when you're playing Arcana, so knowing how to kind of like adjust and deal with it will be really, really important. It'll be really important for you to do that to keep your damage up. And we did a pretty good job. Okay, guys. Again, thanks so much. My last few videos have gotten quite a good amount of attention, and I'm really, I'm kind of really happy for that. I'm glad that people are finding the videos informative or helpful. If you guys have any questions or any additional thoughts or things that you've experienced on Arcana that you kind of like agree with or even disagree with, or things that you found in your experience that have been challenging that I didn't mention, let me know. I'd love to hear about it and see what you guys have to say. I will see you guys either on the next video, or if you're interested, you can tune into my stream. I stream Lost Ark. And so hopefully you guys will tune in and enjoy. Okay, have a good one, guys.